Today's webinar is super exciting. We have a lot of deep subject matter experts in the field of damage prevention. We have 4 different companies here, so give us a moment as we introduce ourselves. I'm going to start with Chris from PointMan.
Hi, I'm Chris Dima. I'm part of the customer success team, and I've been working with the folks on this webinar over the last couple of years, focusing on how to improve utility location. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Chris. I'll kick it over to Marvin at PointMan.
Hello, everyone. Marvin Lopez. I'm also part of the customer success team over at PointMan. Been doing the damage prevention and working in the utility industry for the last 5 years with PointMan, and very excited to be here today. Talk to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marvin. Now over to you, Peter, with Radiodetection.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. PointMan, Radiodetection, sales director for the US market. I've been with Radiodetection. It is my 35th year. I'll hit 35 years in September. Super proud to be here with you guys today. And since Dan, you asked about the weather, it's going to hit 90 degrees here in Pasadena, California today. So not normal, but 90 degrees here today at some point.
Wow, for February, that's pretty impressive.
It's crazy.
Last but not least, David from Frontier Precision. Over to you.
David Siddle, Frontier Precision. I'm an ardent supporter of all things GIS mapping, utilities, and damage prevention. In Denver today, and yes, also crazy weather. It is going to be above 60 in Denver, where it should be in the teens or 20s today.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Spring/summer day in February.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, we're going to jump right in. We're going to do a quick recap of what we covered in our first webinar together. But again, just feel free to throw your thoughts and ideas, questions in the chat, and also stick around towards the end of the presentation. We're going to do a video of the workflow live, and we're also going to show you how to take advantage of this bundle at the end of the presentation. So please do stick around. With that said, I'm going to go kick it over to Peter for the start of the workflow.
Yeah, so in just kind of setting the context here for what we're talking about today, and maybe a little recap on something we covered on the last webinar. So, if you look at the US, we've been burying utilities for 200 years. And while it would be wonderful if everything looked like the pictures that you're seeing there, nice, orderly fashion, everything designed beautifully and positioned accordingly, the reality is somewhat different, right? So if we go and take a look here, I think we've all seen, examples of heavily congested environments where utilities are, spaghetti-like in their nature, particularly in the urban environments, right, where you've got a lot of congested utilities. And if you think about it, one of the industry problems we face is even when we install new utilities to replace existing ones, we're not taking the old ones out. And so that, also leads to complexity in the underground. And if we just do what we've always done, then unfortunately, it's going to lead to the situation in the next slide here, which is, this is a map from 2024 of all the damages that occur in the United States. This is a year, but a lot of damages occurring across the US. This picture is from the DIRT report that the Common Ground Alliance publishes every year. We haven't had the one from 2025 yet. That will come later in the year. But unfortunately, damages in the United States are occurring, are increasing. They're not actually going down. And that tells us that what we're currently doing today is not working. And a lot of those damages you can see there, they're all over the country. It's not isolated to one location. But if you look clearly, you're seeing a lot more damages in the congested urban environments. So clearly, we need to do something different. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. So just wanted to set the scene there. about why we're having this conversation today.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Let's talk a little bit about the cost of all of these utility strikes. I'm gonna hand it over to Marvin.
Thank you, Don. And yeah, that's a great point. Before we start talking about technology, before we get into that, we need to have a renewed chat about the consequences, because this right here is what happens when our workflows fall short. The last webinar, we spoke about the 2023 CGA DIT report, where research found that $30 billion in utility damages were reported in a single year. That's not theoretical risk, that's documented, recorded, preventable damage. As we last mentioned, we're also in the middle of one of the largest infrastructure investment cycles in US history. That aligns with increased infrastructure spending being seen worldwide. More projects, more excavations, more underground congestions. And when volume increases, but the workflows don't evolve, risk compounds. We also talked about research and how that shows that utility strikes are rarely caused by a lack of effort. They're usually caused by a lack of reliable, standardized, and geospatially accurate data. Today, data is everything. Deliverables such as paper sketches, GPS points with 10-foot accuracy, or lack of overall records were maybe acceptable 10, 15 years ago, but as the industry continues to evolve, they're not acceptable anymore. And that leads me to my next point. The legislation has been updated and the regulatory standards from ASCE are raising the bar. The reality is we're not moving toward standardizing utility data collection across the service industry, and which means that close enough is no longer close enough. Lastly, more projects nowadays demand GIS-ready data. That's not just marks on the ground. Engineers want digital files, owners want traceability, municipalities want asset history. The overall market expectation has changed and is continuing to change. So lastly, the real question is not whether utility damages are a problem. The real question is what changes in everyday workflows eliminate risk. And that is where centimeter level RTK accuracy, integrated locating and mapping platforms, tools like what we're talking about today enter the conversation. So with that being said, I think I'll hand it over to Don or Chris. I'm not sure who's up next, but thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Marvin. Let's talk about how we actually get this, this damage prevention to happen in the field and on the ground. And that starts with the hardware. So I'll let Peter talk to that a little bit.
Yeah. So if you look at the demand that Marvin was talking about for high accuracy GIS data in the utility industry, we saw that trend coming at us, a number of years ago, and we realized that the tools that were available at the time weren't cutting it, right? They weren't working for our customers and their contractors, right? So if you think about how we used to do it, we would locate and mark a utility, and then another crew would come back through with a high accuracy GPS antenna or GNSS antenna on a pole, and a separate crew would mark those utilities in order to capture those maps. So over 2 years ago, we introduced the RD8200 SG, which incorporates right into the receiver a high accuracy GNSS antenna. And Chris is going to talk about what PointMan Nav brings to the table in terms of providing sub-inch accuracy, essentially, with our mapping a GNSS location. So combining a high precision, highly capable pipe and cable locator with high accuracy GNSS data allows us to capture these points, in unprecedented and not available until this point accuracy of data. So, it's changing the industry for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. And I guess when you have the hardware, you need somewhere to store all that data. And that's kind of where PointMan comes in. So I'll let Marvin speak to the platform side of this solution.
Yeah, absolutely. The great thing about these technologies is that we all empower each other, and collectively it makes for a much better progress of where the utility industry has been and especially where it's going. One of the biggest challenges in the utility industry isn't just locating, it's also communication. Field crews are collecting data, engineers are designing, municipalities are managing assets, but those systems rarely speak the same language. And there's a lot of siloed data that you see out there. So what we're talking about with PointMan is one centralized platform that connects your data. GIS data, your SU data, your survey data, your CAD files, one call locates, utility relocations, or even storing future project data. Instead of siloed spreadsheets, disconnected CAD files, or photos living on someone's phone, everything flows into a one structured geo-reference system. When we're talking about bridging the gap, it's also about modernizing your workflows. For decades, workflows look a lot like this. You mark it, you take a picture, sketch it, email it or save it somewhere, and then hope that that data is available for later. Nowadays, the same workflows become a digital record tied to coordinates, tied to metadata, tied to specific projects or locations. So bridging the gap also means leveraging mobile and cloud technologies. So with PointMan's real-time data sync, that changes the dynamic entirely, meaning a locator finishes the section of a line in the field, the office can see it right then and there. No waiting for paperwork, no transcription errors, no, I'll send it to you later. For project managers, that means visibility. And for engineers, that means confidence. And for owners, that means legacy documentation. So ultimately, what bridges the gap means that when all stakeholders are looking at the same live data sets, decisions get better. More information doesn't necessarily create complexity, it reduces uncertainty. So to wrap it up, this isn't just about replacing survey. This isn't about replacing GIS. It's about connecting them. And when field data flows seamlessly into engineering and asset management systems, the workflow stops being reactive and starts being intentional. Bridging the gap isn't about software. It's about removing friction.
Yeah, thanks, Marvin. One piece of the puzzle that we're missing here, though, is that the hardware and the mapping is only as good as the location data that you're getting.
Absolutely.
So
Precision is everything.
Yeah, precision is everything when you're surveying or when you're trying to locate. So that's why we're here. And Chris is going to tell you about how we get to that sub-inch accuracy.
Yeah, thanks. So RTK is an established technology, but what we're doing a few things differently that I think create a unique opportunity in this space. One is we've radically simplified the user experience. So you could roll up to our site today, you could be on in a few minutes. It's a modern UI. We've got modern APIs for deep integration with platforms like ProStar's PointMan. We've got one giant intelligent network that really works just like your phone. You're not worried about which base station, do I have to check the health of it? Do I need to know the name of it? You connect once, that device is on the network, delivering, well, we have two flavors. True RTK is delivering 1 to 3 centimeters of accuracy, but we've got 100% of the US at 10 centimeters. And generally that's good enough for a lot of utility location use cases. We're also hardware agnostic. We are cost effective. Talk to us about how big your team is or how big it's going to be. But it starts, you could do monthly or annual right from our site. And I think this is in some bringing like a lot of new people and different people into the utility location workflows, and that's going to bring down the cost and really potentially transform this.
So, Chris, I have not, I guess, a comment more than a question, but when we first started working with the 8200 SG and we were looking at RTK networks, the biggest pain point for me and for a lot of customers is, you need to know your MANC point. You need to log in with different credentials, and if you move to a different part of the state, that those credentials may not apply. Or if you move interstate to another state, then you've got an entirely different set of credentials that you need to be juggling. So PointOne Nav has solved that entirely, right? I think you mentioned the cell phone. You don't think about where your cell phone is and what it's connected to. It just works.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because maybe 3 years ago when I started talking to a lot of utility locators, they were adamant that, well, in this state we have a free service, we want to use that, and this state is cheap or similar priced, and it was a patchwork of providers. And then I think they all realized time is money, and if I could just get the credentials into a device, wherever that device goes, it's got the same service, consistent service, consistent support team too. And that we've really been popular with the regional and national providers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, you mentioned the free state run RTK networks. My experience with those has been less than fantastic, right? The reliability, the acquisition time, some of the accuracy that they're providing isn't always consistent. So, having this available to us has been a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the last thing I'll say is we're on a tear to increase coverage. If you're a customer, you've probably seen our coverage map change weekly, and we're starting to make available our roadmap, what's coming in the next few months. And maybe by the end of this call, east of the Mississippi will be 100% covered with true RTK, which was a massive feat. We've really beefed up our operations team to be able to go into the field and set these up. It's really our focus for 2026.
Thanks, Chris. So we've talked about kind of the three pieces that make up this embedded bundle, but I really want to drive home how easy it is to use. So I really want to show it in action, and we have a video of a live demo that was filmed over the shoulder, and you can see just how fast it is to get centimeter level accurate locates on the locator and have it show up in your mapping software. So I'm gonna take us through that right now. And Marvin, if you want to voice over too, that would be super helpful.
Definitely. So
yeah,
what we're looking at real quick, if you just give it a quick pause, this is the PointMan application. PointMan is a native to iOS or Android. They work the same on either app, on either platform. In connecting that, we have the RD8200SG connected to PointMan via Bluetooth. What you're looking at here is in the PointMan settings, the corrections profile, where before and still people can input their own in-trip settings, but you have to know, like Peter was alluding to earlier, the mount point, the port, the server, the username, all these information points, more information, more inputs, which we know that locators in the field are already doing a lot of work. Using this platform and working with the PointOne team, we've brought the corrections into PointMan. So here, when they select PointOne, what we've done is through integration in the back end, it's all automated. There's no more setting up of any of that. So if you pause it here real quick, all of the credentials are input directly into the system by default. EPSGs, mount points, and all that is pre-selected so that users who may not have any experience using in-trip credentials or their introductory level into high precision mapping, this does away with the step, and it just automatically connects to the device, sets up the in-trip, sets up the connection, starts bringing in RTK precision right into the device. So as this user is just showing, the credentials already being preset, they'll continue through, getting out of the settings, going to the map. You'll see that Google Maps is the base map. And what we're using here is a library selection of a schema of sorts to say, this is a pipe, this is an electric, this whatever it may be. In the top right-hand corner, you see that the residuals immediately, the accuracy levels, right now they're starting to get defined. So if you keep going here very quickly, within, I'd say 30 seconds to a minute, we start seeing sub-inch. Here we have a half an inch of accuracy. So talk about centimeters of accuracy on this locate directly into a map that is visible on the phone, that looks familiar to what users would see using Google Maps. And they're doing their designation digitally into this format. If you'll continue on here, we'll see here in just a moment, once this freeze frame happens, that the user, now because we've integrated this technology with the RD locator, there's no more bouncing back and forth between the screens. The user can select the capture button on the RD, and immediately it anchors a point into the PointMan map with all the residuals from the high precision NEMA stream, and having this line be charged. If you're picking up the underground frequencies, you're going to be seeing your depths, your currents, frequency. Even within the data, you'll see direction, gain, all of the information that is stored typically on the locator, now being stored onto a map that can be captured live and then seen nearly instantly by the rest of the team back in the office. And David, you have a lot of experience working with these tools out in the field, probably more than I'd say most of us here, specifically with clients. So this workflow, and we'll probably get a little bit more into it, but where do you see this workflow as differentiating itself from what we were talking about earlier, right? The paper sketching, translating of that data from system to system to system to then have some sort of working deliverable. Being able to map this in, it changes the game.
The key that you're saying, it's streamlining the workflow. We're taking several elements and combining it, and most importantly is making it easier and more successful for the field techs. Absolutely.
With less work. We don't want to put more work in people's hands. They're already busy enough, especially in the 811 business, tickets never end.
It's a really good segue. Thank you, Marvin, for bringing it up. I want to kind of get David involved in the conversation a little bit more. So I'm going to transfer over to some of your talking points, David, if you don't mind.
You're going to get plenty of me.
So give us a little intro on what Frontier Precision does and what your role is at Frontier.
Well, thank you for the invite. I appreciate everyone's times today. It's the one thing none of us have, and it's important we make the most of it. So for everybody that's attending as we're going along, if you have thoughts or comments, please put them in the chat. This is your guys' time too. Frontier Precision, my role, as it says on there, it's a handful, business development director for geospatial mapping and damage prevention. When I got this new role and title, I got a kick out of it and asked, well, will that fit on a business card? What I like is it tells a story. On the geospatial, I grew up on the dumb end of the survey rod in water, wastewater, gas pipelining, and I chose mapping in 1995. On the damage prevention side, I paired my first line locator in 2008. This is not a new dream for me. Happy to share, what the customer expectations and what we're trying to get out of all of these pieces. Marvin?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for being here today, David. You and I got a chance to catch up earlier this week and last week about the overall growth in the utility industry. So I'm glad we'll be able to discuss some of those topics with the audience today. So first, I want to specifically talk about the current changes you're seeing in the industry. From your perspective, David, what changes are you seeing in the customer expectations about geospatial accuracy or documentation?
Again, just exactly what you guys, showed in that video. The biggest changes are from a lot of manual, a lot of paper, the timelines that it would take from when a locate was captured, putting paint on the ground, and then hoping that somebody would come by and map or survey that, and then getting that data into the office, getting it into a usable form, whether that was a GIS or a CAD, and then getting that into the SU department. There are so many moving parts there and so many opportunities for error or change or, coordinates, datums, projections. There's just a lot of moving parts. So, the key to this is how do we streamline and create continuity of accurate, reliable data?
Absolutely. And I haven't been at this for as long as you, but in the few years that I have been, I've seen a great change in people's mentality or approach to all of this, and workflows keep changing. I'm glad to see it upgrading and modernizing as it is right now. Primarily, customers are upgrading modern workflows and technologies, and when they integrate specifically into RTK positioning, into the locate processes, what do you think surprises them most about that? Because I mean, every technology, any new tool is hard to learn, but specifically with RTK, if you don't know anything about surveying or anything like that, it can be daunting.
You know, when you gave me this question earlier, Enrique, what surprises them the most? I thought about the Colorado DOT mandate. Slide, Don. So January 14, 2021 turned my life upside down. I was not ready for the impact of this mandate, and I've been on the beta team. So I guess it's important to first understand why the mandate. CDOT's goal was to standardize data collection to sub-inch accuracy with a line locator, also standardize datum's coordinate system projections, units, and to use the TMOS codes. Now, crazy talk, right? I mean, this
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, this was ambitious. One of the best things that CDOT did was quarterly venue review meetings. That's where every contractor and vendor was invited. It was an outstanding bitch session where everyone participated in solving the challenges of the new workflow. I cannot say enough good on how Rob Martindale ran that program. So to answer your question, what surprised them most? There's a lot to the solution. You were not going to hand the gear to a tech and say, "Oh, hey, figure it out," or "Good luck," and pat them on the back. It takes training and guidance and support to successfully collect accurate and reliable data. And boy, we've come a long way since then.
Yeah, definitely. Our goal, especially here at PointMan, is to remove friction, like we were talking about earlier in the presentation. My next question has to do with the results of new technology and workflows. How are companies evolving from traditional paint and leave workflows towards digital documentation and more GIS-ready deliverables?
Slide done. So on the left side, when we started integrating in the CDOT model and pairing line locators, the left side is a traditional survey model. This is a base rover workflow, and then you added a line locator, plus maintaining survey field procedures while juggling paint can flags plus everything else. That was a lot. On the right-hand side, we added sub-inch mapping grade units mounted to the locator. And as Pete alluded to, the big challenge was real-time corrections, whether it was a base rover or regional VRS networks, that required radio or cellular. We still had to make them all work together. Now, the two Trimble units there did provide satellite real-time correction service, but again, how do we make all these things fit? There was a lot. Slide down. And as Pete alluded to, in 2023, RD released the SG, and it has the high accuracy GNS built in. That streamlined the workflow, easier setup. All of those things were better, but what was really missing was that cohesive real-time correction piece. So
one big hurdle that I'm seeing is the delayed rate of adoption. And you were talking about having done this since 95, been thinking about these processes and stuff. What are you seeing in terms of adoption and learning curve lately?
So I'd say the biggest adoption in this is the PointMan nav integration. As you pointed out, it can be preloaded, it can be paired. This is as close to field ready as we can be, right now. So that is a really, really big deal in that adoption. Heartburn pointed out, it still requires cellular. We work outdoors. There's a lot of cellular denied environments. Don, slide. So off the grid solutions are becoming much more prevalent. This is pretty cool. This is one of my amazing colleagues, Noah. He's out in the Southeast Oregon and really out there. But, so how do we overcome those challenges of, cellular denied environments? we've really, really, come a long way. Slide done.
Yeah, and maybe David, I could just say that in all my talks with folks in the industry, maybe last year everyone was considering Starlink. This year, like everyone's got them.
Yeah.
They saw the writing on the wall, the value of it, and they just totally embraced it quickly.
Yeah, very easy setup, and again, that was one of those big challenges of those denied environments. How do we get over that? Again, much more prevalent, much easier now.
I think that speaks to the whole conversation, because it's combined technologies and leveraging those technologies, and whatever the workflow, whatever the project requires, there's technologies that can be mixed and matched, essentially patchwork together to make these projects successful at a much lower entry level and less training level cost. Specifically with, I mean, just Starlink itself, even 2-3 years ago, those Starlinks weren't readily available. It was a lot harder to have that technology out in the field. And now it seems like everybody has them on their trucks.
Yeah. And, back to your question on adopting and learning curve, training is the key. Training is absolutely the key to the learning curve. This happens to be a pipeline company that crosses multiple states. And for them, continuity is key. It is required for successful, accurate, reliable collection. Done. Slide.
That's actually perfect. Well, yeah, sorry, go
Slide
ahead.
again. Nope. No, go ahead and hit your slide again. There we go. We like dynamic trainings. So both the classroom and the hands-on and field detection, training is awesome. It is absolutely one of our favorite things. When we really start talking about training, we're not actually locating the line. We're actually identifying the magnetic fields, understanding the difference between peak and null. How do we bring all of these pieces together? So again, cannot stress how important is tying all the pieces together, getting the training. I mean, that's absolutely critical. And again, it's one of our favorite things to do. Marvin?
Definitely. And you said, I know that there's forward-thinking companies. There's people who are kind of dragging their feet. There's people who are maybe intimidated by the technology, the little workflows, or the just overall idea of going digital and starting to map things with high precision. I work with a lot of companies who are starting to take that leap of faith. And for those companies that have taken that leap of faith into the high precision locating and mapping, have you seen companies win more work or differentiate themselves because they provide RTK georeference records now?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't slide. So again, absolutely. The being able to capture the staggering amount of data in this one thing, whether we're looking at both active and abandoned utilities, this is incredibly huge on what we can collect and represent. From slide, the pre-construction side, capturing the GIS data, capturing the CAD data, bringing all of these things together. Slide. And then the final deliverable, this is the key, being able to deliver certified SU data. The companies that are adopting these workflows, yeah, they're absolutely crushing it. So bringing everything in, from the very beginning, the line locate, the GNSS, the accuracy, the attributes, all of those pieces together into delivering it. Yeah, absolutely. They're stepping up.
Well, then for those, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so Marvin, I was just going to ask a question here, because obviously what we're looking at there is either a could be a paper record, but all of this is available to a GIS engineer or technician in software too, right?
Yeah, this is actually a stamped SU record, which is both, the record of data is digital.
Yeah.
Which, having digital records, I think it's also ingrained in the SU or utility locating industries that every time you go and work on a street corner, the whole project starts over again because there's not a centralized database for the records. You call 811, even though this may have happened, even though there are records somewhere, the whole process starts over every single time. So imagine in a world where we do start centralizing records, where we start keeping data, where we can start sharing and then reusing records to better reference ourselves. It's not there yet, but legislation is coming down. It's changing throughout the world, not just in the U.S., but other. Singapore has a lot stricter legislation, requirements, licensing requirements for locating. So those changes are coming throughout the entire industry. How do we get ahead of it? And for those who haven't gotten ahead of it, or even gotten into this industry at all, or this part of the industry at all, and this is more of an open-ended question for anybody. What do you guys recommend for those companies that are, teetering with the idea of going digital mapping or doing RTK, getting into GIS or surveying some of their own utility marks? What do you guys recommend they do as the first step?
Take the first step.
Yeah.
I
Take the leap,
think,
right?
what we're talking about here today, the seamless combination of all of these technologies into one offering just makes it easy for customers to implement the technology and get started with it. If they are, as you said, intimidated by it right now, then we can show them how to make it easy and to get that data into the right hands quickly.
I would say, in reference to one of our customers that has over 500 licenses with us to support their national team, be bold and decisive. Switching over from GPS only to RTK, it's not overly complex. It can be done quickly, and it's best to do it aggressively and decisively. And they executed the transition really smoothly.
And I agree that I would say change is critical. This is the dream: accurate, reliable surface GNSS plus underground line locate data. Once we have that, we can start thinking about, oh my God, what can we do with good data? Using GNSS to navigate or walk back to a utility, getting that high level accuracy, and then verify with a line locator or with accurate, reliable utility data. We can reduce the size of buffers, which will reduce the number of call tags. I mean, all of these things are pretty, the dream really and truly is alive.
Yeah, and then it's a financial incentive too. I mean, we're talking about saving loads of money by avoiding utility line strikes. If you're a construction company and you can avoid line strikes, those are written in as a part of just overall expenses typically, because they happen so frequently on projects. If you can reduce that risk, you're saving money at the bottom dollar.
Marvin, that's a great point, because when a damage occurs, even if it's not the excavator or the contractor's fault, if it's not an at-fault damage for them, their project still may be shut down, right, for days sometimes, and that's
you're renting equipment, labor,
absolutely,
the time of the traffic,
Yep.
whatever it may be, everything goes back, and all the money that's going into infrastructure gets delayed in pre-design, and that's what drives those budgets up.
Yeah.
On the what's the next generation? Don't slide. And Dan, and this kind of goes into your question into the chat. This is a video that is showing the actual next generation. It's here. We are currently doing. This is a video that shows surface data, which is the white ball, captured with the locate data, which is the orange ball. That's the locate mutate. This creates an AR visual that can be displayed live in the field on a phone or a tablet. That gives us the confidence to show actual utility data combined with attributes and metadata. You can show
this is the power of all the data, right?
This is it. And and it's not a dream. We're actually doing this today. So whether it's a government official or stakeholders, that need to be able to go out. You can actually visualize the actual data. Or when you get that stakeholder that says, "Oh, there's no way that is located there." This is actually showing the data. It will tie in the jogs and the bends, and we get the attribute. We get that metadata. This is where we get that confidence in what is there. So this is absolutely amazing.
This is the ability to cross-reference too, right? You can trust but need to verify. And in the utility world, especially, if you can see this and say, okay, well, maybe I still don't want to trust just this data, that's fine. Bring your vac truck, open this up. Now you can prove that it's there. Yeah. But you're not going to be doing 4 or 5 test holes just to find the utility, right? It's right there where it should be.
Absolutely. This is one of those things that imagine what if this data could be used to bring the pothole efficiency up to near 100%. This is budget. This is utilizing tools to the best of our capability. And for everybody on board, that's watching. This is where the crowd usually goes crazy. This is really exciting stuff.
The other point about this image that we're looking at here and the data that was captured, if you guys were looking at it, you'll see here in a second that this power cable connected to that transformer takes an unusual path, right? And that just speaks to what we talked about at the very beginning of, highly complex underground, highly congested. You wouldn't normally expect a cable to do this. You would say, oh, I assume it goes in a straight line. Cables don't always do that. They do very odd things. And here you see that playing out in this data here, right? That was captured for real.
If anything, straight lines are indicative that the data probably wasn't captured with high precision.
Correct. Yeah, even with pipes, right? Even pipes, there's often some movement, that occurs. So, yeah, it's just fascinating.
Still today, and this is just the foundation of where we're going with things, because still today, the majority of the country, the majority of the world still uses traditional workflows to do things like utility locating. And that's why, for example, here in Colorado, CDOT on a massive infrastructure project will do 40,000 test holes just to be sure that the utilities are where they say they are. If you can reduce that by, let's say, a fourth, that is a huge amount of money. But the dream really is we're able to, with these combined technologies and the verification of the data, capable of being outside of this platform or using others to verify it, we can reduce utility line strikes on projects today by around 90-95%. There's research that we have that we're there, but the majority of folks are not implementing these technologies. And that's where us as a whole, the industry entirely is moving towards. And this is where we're trying to also bring it to the masses, to folks who've never seen this before, because we understand how complex it may look, but the technology is doing the majority of the work nowadays. And it's about how you use and leverage those technologies to be able to get to where we're all going, which is the future that we're seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, so that there's a lot of excitement, and again, being able to tie in the locates, high accuracy GNSS, the field data collection tools, the deliverables, these are all the pieces that are where we came from, and certainly where we're going to be moving towards. So I really appreciate you guys' time today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And if you're looking to find out more information about this embedded bundled solution with the platform being PointMan and performance coming from Radiodetection and precision coming from PointMan, feel free to scan that QR code. I'll also drop a link in the chat for folks who don't have their phone. But this is a way for you to take advantage of this if you want. And as a thank you for joining, it's a 12-month free bundle of PointMan and PointMan once you get your locator. So it's a screaming deal that I highly recommend taking advantage of.
Definitely.
I have one last point, and that's to do a little shout out to the PointMan team, because this is a situation where 1 + 1 is 3. Alone, we provide a lot of simplification in the field, but PointMan took our API, integrated it into their platform, and you can now push down credentials through their app to a device, eliminating entering any information in the field. So a year ago, we had the idea to do this, and then it took like a month to get it live in the PointMan apps. So this kind of partnership, or just us exploring and working together, we're in 1 year we've materially improved or reduced the complexity of working in the field with these technologies. Everything's built to be generic and agnostic. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I just really try to make it simple for myself because I'm a dummy to begin with. So the easier you can make it for me, I'm sure everybody will find it easy too.
So to boil it all down into three key takeaways that you can take from this webinar, you have a high precision utility locating piece of hardware with radio detection that has integrated high accuracy GNSS location, and it's all in one tool. And then you have easy to use asset management platforms for mapping and GIS through PointMan, and then you have this automated nationwide RTK accuracy through PointOne. It's all right there for you to use. I will move this. I know we're kind of pushing on time, so if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to listen to us today, and hopefully you learned something new and interesting. I already see something in the Q&A that I will ask the group. It's related to multipath effects and errors. So can you explain how much or if precision is decreased through like multipath errors in urban, downtown, skyscraper environments, kind of like places that
precision? Oh, sorry, didn't interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say precision is going to be an issue, especially in urban canyons or, over canopy environments, things like that. That's going to come down to the technology you choose to pair with PointMan, for example, or many other mapping software. The reality is that there's physics involved with these technologies. And if you have a large building in front of you and your body's hovering over an RD unit and you're covering a good portion of the sky, then the accuracy is probably going to go down. The technologies, depending on what you're using, that's where some of these differentiators between the really high-end, multi-$1,000 units that surveyors traditionally use to some of the easier to use middleware survey tools that can still bring RTK accuracy, depending on whether they have a helical antenna or depending on what the technology is inside of the actual GPS. That's going to depend also on what kind of accuracy levels you're going to get. So it's not specifically PointMan handling that. It's the outside third-party technology that's handling that. We're just bringing in the data into PointMan, whatever that third-party technology is capturing.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit to the RTK side too. We actually use a lot of really advanced algorithms that I only have a surface knowledge of. These are PhD level math and science whizzes that are creating all sorts of filters to kind of combat this multipath error. RTK technology is kind of like ubiquitous technology, but it also depends on the receiver that you have, right? Is it a high quality receiver, but also the network, how close you are to a base station, and how many base stations are on that network. So that's what I think really differentiates PointOne from other RTK providers is we have a really dense network. So you're guaranteed to have a close baseline to a base station that's providing that correction. So that could really help with the multipath issue. And I see, Chris, you're also wanting to jump in on this a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a lot of redundancy in the urban areas, and I keep an eye on the ticket flow. And I think I recall 1 or 2 tickets related to that in the last 2 or 3 years. So not that it doesn't happen, but I think with our densification of the network, we're really addressing that.
Awesome.
That's one thing. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to add that I work in Denver a lot. I'm in downtown Denver a lot. And even now outside of Denver, lots of canyons, lots of mountains out here in Colorado. So we have that effect of the sky not always being visible. And one of the reasons that I love working with PointOne navigation is because typically don't have very much trouble getting really good accuracy no matter where I am, whether it's a downtown urban environment or a natural canyon that has, walls that are massive. I find myself having a lot of success. And I was that guy who was traveling a lot and having to do the intrip credentials. And, I was finding a lot of pushback and trouble finding the information to begin with. So yeah, I love working with PointMan specifically because of their coverage and how well it works, whether you're in an urban canyon or a natural canyon or anywhere in between.
Love it. Okay, I think we'll do one more question just for the sake of time. But if you're in the chat or you're joining us as a guest, please feel free to send us a message. And we love talking shop. Or don't be shy. But the question is there a start to finish workflow training that someone can offer, potentially PointMan or Frontier Precision, that we can use as a training?
So on the Frontier side, we are focused on our regional footprint, and the answer is absolutely. Where you can also work with organizations on creating a custom program that would be videos and Teams meetings, depending on where we are. The training is absolutely critical to what we do. Marvin, I'll let you talk to PointMan's offerings.
Yeah, specifically when people sign up with PointMan, we get them through a virtual training, usually a 2-session training, which we talk specifically about the cloud platform, which is the foundation of the PointMan software, and then how that ties into the mobile field users, which is the second training. We also offer in-person trainings if needed. That's just kind of the part of some enterprise packages that we have. But all in all, we do have resources. We also have lots of great resources with our partners too, like David and team, because I know a lot of people are asking PointMan questions through the CDOT integration. So we're here to help, essentially. Yeah, our support channels. We have online help documents, videos, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Radiodetection is a global company. I noticed we have a lot of guests with us today from different parts of the world. So I would say, if you need training on solutions, please just reach out to us. It's highly likely that we have somebody in your area that can provide that training. So just reach out to us, radiodetection.com.
And in Frontier, when we're talking about the training, this is on the solution. We are hardware vendors, and everything starts with service support repair training, and so it's going to be focused on: are you successfully collecting data with the hardware, whether that is your line locator, the GNSS, so being comfortable in those environments, and then adding in the software app, the real-time corrections. This is a solution. That this isn't a single piece that you can point to and say, watch this video. We need to be successful in all components.
Amazing. Thank you, Marvin, David, Chris, and Pete, for dropping some serious knowledge on us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Definitely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, all.
Yeah, thank you all, and appreciate everyone from around the globe. It's good to see so many differing places, right? Definitely good to see.
Great.
We'll see you on the next one. Take care.